Just a disclaimer, I've never played any of the Tomb Raider games, nor have I seen the Angelina Jolie movies, but always had an interest in playing the new games. I just never got around to it. So when I saw they were making a Tomb Raider movie, I thought, why not? And here I am. If you don't know what the movie's about, it's about a young woman named Lara Croft. By the way, I'm sorry if I accidentally call her Laura, but I don't even pronounce the actors' names correctly. I'm not going to say the character's name correctly. So Lara is the daughter of a rich archaeologist who goes missing when she was a little girl. She finds clues to her father's whereabouts on an island and goes to search for him. There's also a tomb parade. It's in the title. The story is very cliche and there's not a lot of twists and turns. The story you think you're going to get is just that. Thankfully, this movie has plenty of other good things because without them, this could have easily crashed and burned. The movie does have plenty of cliches. They have the "if you're watching this, I'm already dead" cliche. There's the "stare at a quiet scene to set up a jump scare" cliche. There's plenty of things we've seen before, but luckily they're brief. In fact, that's going to be a common theme in this review. There are plenty of bad things in this movie, but at least they were brief. The writing could have been better. I don't want to knock the writers because it's clear that they have many great ideas, but they weren't executed well, or that they didn't realize when they had a good thing going. For example, they start the movie showing that Lara is having money problems. Yes, she is the daughter of a rich archaeologist, but she refuses to accept her inheritance because accepting it would mean accepting her father's death. That's a really interesting setup to the movie and the character, but they seem to ignore it very quickly. In fact, it felt like they only added that story just to be like, hey look, Lara's an average person, isn't she relatable? Good story, but I don't think the reasoning of using it was good. A reason why I may like that storyline is that the Lara Croft actress, AmadeusA Vikander, did a really good job portraying the character. First looking at her, I was thinking, really? Her? She's very small. I just looked it up, she's 5'5" or 1.65 meters. She just looks like a pretty face to me. Yes, Angelina Jolie is also good looking, but she also had a tough look to her. But despite all this, I think AmadeusA did an amazing job portraying her. Despite being small, she looks pretty strong. One of the first scenes in this movie is showing off her muscles. Really looks like she worked hard to build herself up for this movie. Or if that's just a regular exercise routine, good for her. I also really like her portrayal of showing the vulnerability of the character. Not just physically, but mentally, how much surviving takes a toll on her. This is also giving credit to the writers and directors. I do think a strong character isn't someone who fights with a courageous face, but someone who keeps on fighting despite being scared. And I do think the movie does a great job portraying that. This movie also has some Into the Badlands actors like Nick Frost, and I'm upset. He's barely in this movie. I know he was barely in the trailers, but I was hoping to at least see him work with his Into the Badlands co-star Daniel Wu. By the way, Daniel Wu did a good job playing his character Lu Ren. His character is mostly just the one to own a boat. His backstory is similar to Laura, but they don't do much with it. He doesn't have many action scenes either, which is a shame if you've seen him in the Into the Badlands TV show. Walton Goggins plays the main villain Matthias Vogel. He did a good job. I like that his character is very similar to Laura's father, Richard. So many movies have the main villain be a dark version of the main hero. Although that's still sort of in the movie, it's slightly more interesting for him to be like the dad instead of the main hero, especially since the main hero's main motivation for all this is for her dad. Lara also meets up with other characters halfway through the movie. Honestly, that's the weakest part of the movie. Not that it isn't important, but there's more interesting stuff we can be doing. Like I said earlier in this review, I can see the writers have great ideas, but they weren't executed well. I was thinking, why is this even happening now a few times in the theater? Because that this is a story about exploring ancient ruins, there's going to be some puzzles our heroes have to solve. The puzzles were very decent, some were clever. The only negative thing I would say is that they go through with the puzzles very quickly. They introduce them and then they solve them in less than a minute. I would have liked, as an audience member, to try to solve it with our heroes, but they solved them before I get a chance to really think about it. One thing I'm glad though is that this isn't some kind of scavenger hunt where one puzzle leads to another, then another, then another. Those type of movies are boring to watch for me. So I'm glad that they didn't overuse the puzzles. I just wish the puzzles they did introduce would have stuck around a little longer. There's also a lot of action in this movie. Whether it's fighting or exploring, there's always something happening, which is good. The trailers made this movie look like it's going to be a CGI mess of a film, but no, like the puzzles, they didn't overuse the CGI. However, when they did use it, it was a mess. What really bothers me are the slow motions or when they hold the camera to see the dangers. It's so CGI that when you pause the scene, it doesn't build suspense. It gets rid of it. I'm not going to act like it's all bad. There are a lot of creative moments in this movie, moments that can't be done practically for safety reasons. Like I said earlier, AmadeusA Vikander does a really good job portraying the vulnerability, so even if it was a CGI mess, At least her reactions to everything around her felt real, which is the most important thing. Some of the CGI does look pretty. A lot of it wasn't great, but when it was good, it was good. Final score for this movie, 7 out of 10, but it was very close to an 8. This movie has a lot of cliches and some of the CGI doesn't work, but nothing was overused. In fact, that's the good and bad thing about this movie. If something's bad, there isn't a lot of it. But if something's good, there isn't a lot of it either. But the strongest part of the movie was the actress. She really held up this movie. I liked this movie. Wasn't great, wasn't bad. It actually wasn't even a fun movie. It's just something I like. Yes, this movie is a lot better than Assassin's Creed, the better than her husband. Hope this movie does get a sequel because they just need to refine what they already have.